Stella by Starlight, Chapter 43, White Patients Only. "Oh, God, Georgia!" her father exclaimed as he raced towards them at last. Jojo was not far behind, his face tight with worry. It was almost dusk. Stella scrambled to her feet. "Papa, Mama's been bit. It's really bad." She looked around. "Where's Dr. Hawkins?" "He ain't here," her father said, desperation in his voice. "He had to go out to Raleigh, medical conference. He's not due back for 3 days. Even as he spoke, he lifted his semi-conscious wife into his arms, blankets and all, and strode back towards the house. Stella grabbed the water bucket and hurried after him. "Must have been a rattler," her father declared, moving faster than Stella ever dreamed possible for someone carrying another full-grown person. Cane brakes like to hide under wet wood in the fall. "Mama wasn't positive," Stella told him, worry making her mouth dry. "I didn't see it, but maybe it was a copperhead," she added hopefully. "They're not so poisonous, right?" "Still very, very dangerous," her father replied as he bounded onto the porch. Rather than try to carry her to the loft, he gently laid his wife on Stella's bed. Jojo ran to stoke the fire without being told. "I didn't know what to do, Papa," Stella said, feeling her calm disappear and frenzy setting in. "Girl, you done so good," her father said as he checked Stella's makeshift bandage. "I couldn't have fixed her up better myself." Stella hoped she'd done enough. "Water," her mother whispered, "water." Jojo grabbed the bucket from Stella, ran to pump fresh water, and hustled it right back in. Stella carefully held a dipper full to her mother's parched lips again and again until Mama fell asleep. "Jojo," Papa called out, "run tell Mrs. Bates and Mrs. Winston what happened. They'll know more than us what to do about snakebite." Once Jojo rushed off, Stella turned to her father. "What are we going to do, Papa?" "I've been thinking on exactly that. Your mother needs antivenom. Dr. Hawkins is not going to get back in time. I don't want to risk taking the wagon to Raleigh. You got to keep a snakebite real still. The bumps and thumps could kill her, I believe." He stared at his work-worn hands. "I can build or fix anything with these hands," he said, his voice breaking. "But I can't fix this. Lord, I hate to say this, but we need Dr. Packard." "Oh, Papa, there's no way he will come, is there?" "Well, I doubt he would ever even answer the door if I knocked," her father said. "But you? He might just possibly listen to you. He's got a daughter about your age, don't he?" Stella bit her lip hard. "Yes, but he might be head of the Ku Klux Klan. Why would he help us?" Papa dug his fingers deep into his hair. "He's got a wife he cares about. He's got a child he surely loves. He's got to know what it feels like to be crazy with worry for them." He placed his hands on Stella's shoulders. "Will you go, child? Will you try? Your mama's got maybe 24 hours. Stella had never seen such desperation on her father's face. "Papa, I'll go. Don't worry, I'll go get Dr. Packard to come here and tend to Mama." She headed up the road. That mile and a half to town never seemed so far away. She didn't run. Nobody would listen to a sweaty girl, she figured. The town square, almost deserted this late, looked very different at night. Buildings cast long shadows and familiar shops looked foreign. She gazed up at the moon, which hung like a fingernail in the night sky, light against dark, a sliver of hope. She did pick up speed as she passed the bench near the general store, even if no one was in it. Dr. Packard's office, just around the corner, stood between the undertaker's office and the bank. Stella smacked her forehead. What if he's gone for the day? She hadn't considered that most shops closed up around 4 o'clock. She wondered if she dared go to his house. But then she saw with relief a light in the front window. An older white woman Stella didn't recognize, walking heavily on a cane, was just leaving the building. "Thank you, doctor," she was saying. "I'm feeling better already." Stella hurried to the door before it could close. "Good evening, ma'am," she said to the woman as she passed her. Was all Stella heard in reply as the woman hobbled off. Stella looked down and tried to smooth her wrinkled dress, suddenly regretting that she had not taken the time to change her clothes. She smelled of leaves and dirt, and she sniffed. And whiskey. She had no choice. Just as Dr. Packard was closing the door, Stella pressed her hand up against it. Excuse me, sir," she began. "What you want, gal?" the doctor said. Stella hesitated. The doctor's eyes were such an odd color green, cold like fish scales. He was the only person she'd ever encountered with eyes just that color. She remembered those eyes peering from behind that hood on the day of the Spencer fire. She remembered those eyes from that afternoon so long ago when she'd been only 5. Stella blinked fast and shook her head. Then she blurted out, "My mother has been bitten by a rattlesnake. Copperhead, we think." "So?" "Please, sir, she needs a doctor. She needs an antivenom, and she needs it fast." "Y'all got a colored doctor down there. Don't be bringing all this botheration to me." "Dr. Hawkins is in Raleigh, sir." "So go to Raleigh." Stella bit her lip to quell her rising panic. "Mama can't be moved, sir. Papa says it would make the venom travel faster in her bloodstream." "So now your pappy's a doctor. You don't need me," he laughed. "Oh, yes, we surely do. I have a daddy and a little brother who loved her very much. She's my mother, sir." He shrugged. "She ain't my mama, so I don't rightly care." Stella thought quickly, then dared. "I know your daughter, sir. We're the same age." "Paulette don't know nobody like the likes of you," he sneered. "But what if it was Paulette or your wife that got snake bit?" Stella asked, trying to reason with him. He leaned towards her. "They got better sense than to get bit by a snake. Only stupid people let snakes bite them." "Please, sir, please. Her leg is swelling. It's hard for her to breathe. She's barely conscious. Won't you be kind enough to come take a look at her, please?" Stella implored. "No. Now leave my property before I call the sheriff." Stella was stunned. "But she might die," she pleaded, blinking back tears. "I told you, I don't care." "Please," Stella whispered once more. "Read my sign," Dr. Packard said. Then he slammed the door in Stella's face. Tacked on his door was a wooden plaque, neatly painted in red block letters. It said, "White Patients Only." Chapter 44. She Cried. When Stella got home, she ran immediately to her mother, her eyes meeting her father's. She shook her head, and he bowed his. They had known it would be a long shot. Neither of them had really expected Dr. Packard to come. But Mrs. Winston had come. She called to Stella to get some victuals. "You must be starving, girl." Hot soup and warm biscuits appeared on the table. Stella hadn't realized how hungry she was. She ate it all. "Thank you, Mrs. Winston," she said gratefully. "Thank you." Mrs. Hawkins began wiping Mama's brow with cold compresses. "I brought a pot of the same kind of elderberry willow tea your Mama fixed for my Tony," she said. "We've been getting her to sip little bits." "Is it helping?" Stella asked. "Well, her fever ain't spiking, and the swelling hasn't gotten any worse, so that's a good sign," Mrs. Hawkins replied. But Stella could read the fear on her face. Stella squatted by Jojo at the fire, where he was rolling 2 marbles between his palms, and pulled him close. Jojo rolled the marbles faster and faster and faster and faster. Finally, he whispered, "Is Mama gonna die, Stella?" "I don't really know for sure," Stella told him. "It looks pretty bad right now, but Mama is the strongest woman in Bumblebee, maybe in all of North Carolina." "Uh-huh," Jojo replied, but he didn't sound convinced. Papa knelt down beside him. "I'm going to be honest with you two. If it was a rattler that bit her, that venom can be fatal. Depends on the type of rattlesnake, where the bite is, and the type of toxin it carries. We really don't know what bit your Mama. But if it had been the more serious type, she'd already be gone." Stella held Jojo tighter. "But a person can survive a copperhead bite, if that's what got her. It ain't pretty, but it is possible. Antivenom sure would make it a lot less painful and a lot more certain. Doc Packer could have helped with that, but he didn't. So we're going to depend on our friends to keep her comfortable and our God to pull her through. Understand?" They both nodded. "Now say your prayers and get some sleep. We have some long days ahead." Stella grabbed a quilt, covered herself and Jojo on his bed by the hearth, and began to pray. She prayed and prayed, listening to the embers crumble, certain she would never be able to sleep this entire night. So she was confused and disoriented when the front door burst open and several people entered, all seemingly talking at once. Mrs. Odom, who usually dressed in demure long dresses and straw hats, had on a pair of men's overalls and an old plaid work shirt. Her hair was unstyled and all over her head. Stella could tell she'd left home in a real hurry. Her daughter, Claudia, looking sleepy, wore a nightgown, and Dr. Hawkins, in his Sunday go-to-meeting 3-piece suit and fedora, filled the room with his authority. Claudia spotted Stella. "Can I lie down with you and Jojo, Stella?" she asked, coming over. "We've been in the car all night." Stella hopped up, patted the place she'd been sleeping, and took Claudia in. Claudia was out before Stella even had the blanket fully around her. Then Stella ran over to the adults. Her father was in the midst of giving Mrs. Odom a bear hug. He pulled Stella into it. "Stella, girl, praise the Lord." Mrs. Odom had heard about the snake bite, got in her car, and drove all the way to Raleigh to get Dr. Hawkins from his medical conference. Papa told her, mashing them both. Mrs. Odom extracted herself from the embrace, but her cheeks were flushed with pride. Stella felt she was going to burst. Mrs. Odom? She drove? The woman who wouldn't ever take the car out for fear of getting dust on it? Praise the Lord indeed. "And there's even better news," Papa added, hope in his voice. "Dr. Hawkins had some antivenom at his office. He's giving Mama her first dose right now." "So Mama's not going to, she's gonna live?" Stella asked incredulously. "Nothing's for sure yet," her father replied, "but at least she has a fighting chance now. And you know what else, Stella?" "What?" Stella couldn't imagine anything more. "Dr. Hawkins says that what you did out there in the woods was simply amazing. Cleaning and treatment of the rattlesnake bite the way you did probably saved her life, kept her alive long enough for him to get here." Stella felt relief flood through her, and for the first time since she'd found her mother, she cried.